The Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau this week, and it shocked the basketball world. Why now? This is a pretty odd time to do it. They just made the conference finals for the first time since 1999. Thibodeau is far and away the best Knicks coach of this century. You got to go back to what, Van Gundy, Pat Riley, to get a coach as good as Tom Thibodeau? And I know he's had his ups and downs in his head coaching career, but really, this is the time you do it? 2 weeks ago, you were naming streets after the players on this team, and now you're canning the coach? Even Jalen Brunson couldn't believe it. He was asked right after their Game 6 loss to the Pacers, and asked if Tom Thibodeau was the right guy, and he was like, "Are you serious?" Like, of course he is. We just got within 2 wins of the NBA Finals. Just beat the Celtics. But now Tom Thibodeau's gone. He's looking for a job. Could we see a reunion? Does it make sense for Tom Thibodeau to join the staff in Boston? He obviously has plenty of experience in this town. He's a Connecticut native, which is not Boston. Don't get me wrong. It's not. Played at Salem State, coached at Salem State, assistant at Harvard, and an assistant and associate head coach for the Boston Celtics, 2007 to 2010. You might remember something pretty notable happening in that time. Tom Thibodeau instituted the defense that was number 1 in the league in 2008 when the Celtics won their 17th NBA championship. Tibbs was a huge part of that coaching staff. For all those of you who believe that Doc Rivers is a trash coach, then you must think Tom Thibodeau is a legend. Because Tibbs was his main assistant there, associate head coach, and was the guy who kind of installed that defense that was perfected and anchored by Kevin Garnett. But now, could a return to Boston be a really good career move for Tibbs? I think so. Joe Mazzulla has not been afraid, or maybe it's Brad Stevens, but Joe Mazzulla has not been afraid to get kind of these overqualified guys, I would say. Someone like Jeff Van Gundy on last year's staff is a guy who had been a head coach for a long time in the NBA. Obviously was in the broadcast booth for a while before that, but had been a head coach a lot longer than Joe Mazzulla had been. Or even bringing in someone that has been a part of Celtics championship teams before, like Sam Cassell. Tom Thibodeau fits both of those. And if for no other reason, it's probably a little late in the game for anyone else to be firing a coach and hiring another head coach, but if for no other reason, you could take out a coach who, let's be honest, flat out out-coached Joe Mazzulla in that second round playoff series. Out-coached him. The Knicks, I know they had 2 20-point comebacks, but for the most part, they played superb defense. Superb defense against what was a great Celtics offense, even before Jason Tatum went down with injury. You don't think the Celtics could use a little boost to that? You don't think he could help improve the quality of a team that's not going to have as much quality on the court next year? I don't know, man. Maybe I'm being too kind of inside the Celtics studio here. But to me, that makes a ton of sense. And I don't know if he comes in as the associate head coach right away. And it might only be a year or two. But Joe Mazzulla has clearly shown in the past he can swallow his pride. He can bring in, he can admit when he's wrong. He can bring in a coach that has a ton of experience, maybe more than he does. And Tom Thibodeau has shown that as well, by the way, in reverse. This was a guy who was the Bulls head coach, had to take a bit of a step down, kind of beg for a job, Minnesota after taking a year off, and then rebuilt the Knicks. He took over the Knicks and they were in a bad spot. He has not been an assistant since being with the Celtics. I'll give you that. But I don't know what other options Tom Thibodeau really has for next year. Maybe he does the same thing. He takes the year off. Like he did between Chicago and Minnesota. But one great way to raise your coaching profile again, because at this point, Tom Thibodeau is now a retread, is to be a high-level assistant for a year or two for the Boston Celtics. I just think it makes a ton of sense. And all of those of us who watched that series in round 2 would have to admit that Tom Thibodeau outcoached Joe Mazzulla. But it once again begs the question, why the hell? Why the hell did they fire him? I see some people pointing out that, the point differential in the playoff was 0. Who cares, man? Who cares? They won 2 playoff series for the first time in a quarter century. They beat a much better team on paper, the Boston Celtics. They beat them. They were a minute and a half, 2 minutes away from being up 3-1 even before Tatum got hurt. Like, they flat out outplayed them and outcoached them in that series. And Indiana is a better basketball team. They are. They might have beat the Celtics, to be totally honest with you. And yet New York's like, we could do better than that. Who are you going to do that's better than that? Right now, in June, who are you going to get that's better than that? Mike Malone? Maybe. He won an NBA title. He's the best player in the world. I like Mike Malone. Coach Bud is bumping around the gyms in Austin. Maybe it's him. But to me, I know those guys each have championships and Thibodeau doesn't as a head coach. But are we really saying those guys are that much better than Tom Thibodeau? Like, is that not a lateral move to you? Celtics were a great team in 2024. Obviously, they were the champions. They had one of the great offenses in NBA history, but they also had a terrific unsung defense that was good this year, but they just didn't have it. They just didn't have that defensive intensity. There was absolutely no shot last year, even without Jason Tatum, that they would have lost to this Knicks team, because they got after it defensively every single night. They were holding teams under 100 points. They were holding the Mavericks in the NBA Finals under 90 points. That wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have lost that series. So the Celtics could use a little retooling, reshaping of that defense. Tom Thibodeau should be the guy. Swallow your pride. Put him on the bench with you. And if Joe Mazzulla can't handle a season without Jason Tatum, then maybe you got your replacement right there. Maybe. Because that is 2 out of 3 seasons Mazzulla's lost to an inferior team in the postseason. Just saying. The other year was a championship, so I'm willing to put some slack on that leash. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Should Tom Thibodeau be the next assistant coach of the Boston Celtics under Joe Mazzulla? Let me know in the comments. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. We are on the path towards 4,000 subscribers. We're getting closer every single day, thanks to the great people like you that are tuning in on YouTube, which is live on YouTube every weekday, high noon Eastern time, and then wherever you get your podcast. I'm your host, Cam Stuart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air. Check out the other videos on the YouTube channel talking Celtics and everything else going on in Boston sports. And we will see you tomorrow on a little ditty that we like to call The Cam Show.